Welcome once again to the Friday Beer Break. Joining me as always, Chris Schryer from TorontoBeerBlog.com, and the Beer Break is brought to you by the Beer Market. They've got live music Thursday through Saturday and the Rock and Roll Brunch on Sundays. Thank you for sponsoring us, Beer Market.
We love you.
I love you!
This is a history lesson in a can.
I do know that they used to make it in caves.
Yeah.
How about that, huh?
Still do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Yeah.
Give us the history.
Okay, so here's the deal. Pilsner Urquell, inarguably the first golden lager in the world.
Ever.
Forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
Going back.
1848.
1848.
Pretty sure that's the right
Now, I know that it has to do with the cold is how they age it, and that's what makes the Pilsner what it is.
Well,
so is it because the cave-based technologies weren't at the appropriate level?
It was the Industrial Revolution. It was actually a perfect storm that brought the existence of Pilsner Urquell in. So it started out in Pilsen.
Czech Republic.
Yeah, well, Czech at the time, and now Czech Republic. Yeah, they had this big do when locals, there was like 30 barrels of beer that were off, and so this is before like modern refrigeration and stuff. They dumped it all out. They got really annoyed and decided that they were going to form like a public brewery to make their own beer.
I must keep this to myself.
So they learned about this, except the German guys were using these malts that they were roasting over fires, and so they were very dark. So the beers were cloudy and brown, kind of reddish brown. When they decided to do this in Pilsen, they incorporated a bunch of different technologies. So they were actually using, they were using a kiln for grain that came from England that was making malts for pale ales, which were yellow. They weren't brown. So when they unveiled this beer, it was a totally different color. It was made with this completely different yeast. It was cold aged in these cellars. I didn't even say. The brewery, it was built on sandstone, and they dug these huge cellars underneath it to age the beer in cellar temperature. The other thing that had happened was commercial glass was becoming available for glassware. So before that, you would often be drinking out of metal or clay.
Allow me to raise your cup.
And all of a sudden, you could see the beer. So these muddy kind of brown beers, it didn't matter so much. But in '48, when they brought out the Pilsner Urquell, and it was this beautiful golden clear, like brilliantly clear color. So all of a sudden, you go from drinking these murky brown, tasty, but not visually attractive beers out of mugs, to this golden, bright, very refreshing, slightly bitter, but not super bitter, just this beautiful beer. To the extent that in '48, when it came out, it blew up. It became like the big thing.
Is it because it's so clean and clear and glassware that lagers are now like the dominant beer?
Yeah, well, and it was the explosion of this specific beer meant that everyone wanted to make the beer.
So was it Pilsner Urquell?
Yeah, I think it was called something slightly different originally, but it's this beer. It's still
this
made,
beer.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
This is the classic Pilsner. The Saaz hops. Some people think it smells a little skunky. It's that hoppy kind of tang to
Yeah.
it, but it's got a nice crisp bitterness to it. The malt is clean, sweet cereal grain. It's not super sweet like a lot of the sort of bigger yellow beers you get these days from bigger breweries in our continent.
Way to step over that.
Choose your next words carefully, Leonidas.
This is a beautiful, well-crafted beer. I joked around, I was describing it to somebody, and they were like, oh yeah, I like that beer. I said, of course you like that beer. Everybody likes that beer. It's like liking the Beatles.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course you like the Beatles. This is the classic, literally gold standard when it comes to Pilsners.
I love gold.
There was a study done in Czech on rehydration after exercise, and they got a control group to do, exercise, the same exercise, and they gave half of them water and they gave the other half Pilsner, and the people who had the Pilsner had the exact same rehydration levels, but their electrolytes had bounced back a little bit more. So the next time you're like pounding some iron or whatever you do at the gym, do you pound iron?
Yeah, I pound on the iron. Because it's got electrolytes.
It's got electrolytes.
It's got electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
Wasn't there something to do with like the water in the Czech Republic being really soft, and that also contributed to the way it was made?
Yeah, exactly. So in the area specifically, they had very, very soft water, and so many British beers are made with quite hard water. The hardness really brings out a lot of the hop kind of pop to it. So this beer was more balanced, a little bit more gentle, a little bit more delicate. They also had an access to a really phenomenal strain of barley that allowed this really complex, clean.
It
barley
really is
taste.
the perfect storm.
It was literally like if you go home to Wikipedia, the source of all information in the world, but look at
never
Pilsner
ever
Urquell.
wrong about anything.
Check out the Oxford Companion to Beer, actually, if you want a really cool book on beer that covers everything. The entry in there has the whole history. And like you just read it and you're like, it was a tinderbox and all it needed was that spark and it just went up. And that's why this beer style is now the dominant beer style in the world.
You're goddamn right.
Pilsner Urquell, fantastic stuff at the beer market, live music Thursday through Saturday, and the rock and roll brunch on Sundays.